there, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. So this morning, I kind of wanted to do, it might be a two-parter, even three-parter, I don't know, about ceremonies, native, original, shamanic type ceremonies. And I'm not talking about mainstreamy. I'm talking about, really traditional type of work. And it's been weird because my subconscious mind does not want to talk about this kind of stuff openly. Like to my students and to, clients, when I go out and I take a look at what's going on, for example, derogatory energies or negative energies, or people could call them demonic. They all fit in the same category: shadow people, flyers, demons. Sometimes more visible, less visible. Sometimes, they project that they're a person or ghost, whatever. So when I go out to deal with a client, I'm one-on-one. So I go out and I look at their property, their house, or the subject of what is going on or what the issues are going on. Sometimes that leads to other things in that neighborhood. It'll lead to other places. Sometimes there can be like connections between states. Sometimes there can be, anyway, it can go on and on and on. But when I go out, douse, look at the property, and I advise them on their participation in it and how they need to participate. So it's like kind of sort of a counseling session or a life coaching session. And I make them aware so that they have their choices that they can make. Do they want to participate in the healing of whatever's going on, the shift and change of it, or and it could be kind of bumpy, or would it be more suitable for them? Are they not interested in all of it? And is it too emotionally difficult? And thus they may need to leave or seek out other situations. Sometimes, people, there's a whole thing about that's going on with possession. And I call it the secondary cause of illness, because I think that not all, but what most people are dealing with right now is a product of some type of entity, spirit. These beings, they want bodies too, except for they don't really know how to treat bodies. And then they can live in houses. They can live in, they really like electrical power lines and power grids, because that's how they, you have a big transmitter, and this is how they move in and out, and then they can travel down power lines, into different houses. So the more energy that's negative in the house, the more domestic abuse, if there's been a murder, there's been a drug overdose, there's been a suicide, there was a massacre, an injustice, a murder. So we'll talk about this raven thing from when I was on a farm. And you can go back a few videos. Oh, traditional osteopathic medicine for animals. I talk about this raven thing, but not really. So we'll talk a little bit more. So there was a situation going on this property where we were, when I was apprenticing, we were going to do like 2 acres or 5 acres of potatoes. So, went out there, plowed the whole area, got it ready, put in a lot of natural nutrient, bone meal, and lots of other things. And then, planted the potatoes. So it took a lot of people to do this. It was a pretty big effort. But, those potatoes will last you and all the other people who participated in it all winter long. So It's a very valuable, group growing to do. So the only thing that we were growing on that particular land was potatoes. And we had different areas that we planted a lot of different stuff. Anyway, early on being on this property with these potatoes, there was some serious stuff going on. And the ravens kept doing like the strangest shit. So I kind of was alerted, whenever you see nature animals acting not like nature animals, being aware and awake, I can plant potatoes and still pay attention to everything that's going on. Everything is telling me it's got a story and it's got pieces of the story. And sometimes when you're dealing with layers and layers and layers and layers of energies, and you want to get to the bottom one and clear it as fast as possible to elevate the energy in the land and open up the meridian or the power spot there, so the earth can come back online, because her program, all her meridians and her electrical ley lines and currents, most of them have been cut from lots of different things. And, usually, like, I was talking about Burgundy, or where there was lots of wars that happen and all kinds of multiple layers of stuff. You go to those areas and you see like war, mass sacrificial, ritualistic bloodshed, which is war, people being shot at. And that is a PowerPoint, because it keeps happening over and over and over again. But the more that they layer on, the more that is layered on, keeps that point from working, which means that it's a wound. The earth has a wound, so it can't run an electrical charge through its meridians, light things up. So my one teacher, Babados, said that he taught us about the earth and cleaning up different areas, especially that we're called to, and doing, earth healing ceremonies, is that the earth is the flower, of life pattern. And so all these little things they have where they meet up, the lines and everything, is a point on the entire earth. He was one of the keepers of the caldera at Yellowstone. So for 15 years, he would go and do prayer and ceremony until the steam valves would release and that he knew it wasn't going to explode. And Emoto, he was friends with Emoto, and Emoto would come from Japan as well and work with Bavado and some other people there to heal the water, so that one of the largest calderas in North America doesn't explode and put 5 years of ash into the atmosphere, and we all die of emphysema and can't grow food, and the average temperature worldwide drops by 15 degrees. So these are the kind of ceremonies that he did, and he ended up living in total poverty. People just didn't financially support him in the ways that he needed to be supported, because they don't really understand what people like us do. We're the ones keeping the balance, and there's very few of us out there that actually travel I don't travel worldwide, but Canada and all over the U.S. and and since he died in June, I kind of went catatonic for a while, so I haven't really been doing a lot of ceremonies. I've been kind of overwhelmed with the loss of my teacher, and me getting a fire lit under my ass and picking up his work and other people's work that I've learned and that are no longer here. So I've been a little bit overwhelmed. And anyway, so it's really important to release the energies off these certain areas. So sometimes I'll be driving. And yeah, I talk to lots of different beings. I mean, more beings appear. In 2014, I met the sky beings who came in a cloud form. It was like incredible. Go back and look at that video, Return of the Sky Beings. I mean, I literally like, I'm pretty out there, but when I saw that in the sky, I had a coffee. It was early in the morning. I was been sleeping in rest stops, I'd have to stay at a rest stop, use Wi-Fi or whatever, and then until I had enough money to get out of there and get to the next place. It was tough. It was really tough, but it was totally a spirit-led thing for 4 months, and I had to release a lot of things, and I did a lot of work. So sometimes I'll be driving and through a state or whatever, and I really believe like how I pick how to drive through a state is also part of me being led to wherever I need to go to do some earth healing ceremony. And it changes all the time. Maybe it's a small layer, so do some prayer, tobacco prayers, prayer smoking, taking, ceremony ash from other ceremonies, making medicine bundles, just whatever I feel led that's within my capacity in my tool bag to do for that area. And I get led to places to do work. And then I get there and, I put together something, sometimes just on the fly to help release, whatever is going on there, even a small blockage. But in order to release like big blockages and stuff like that, sometimes you have to like prepare. Oh, so I want to go back to the raven story. Sorry about that. I got off. Anyway, so we're on the farm. The ravens are doing really, really weird stuff. And so, after it's all over, the farmer, had come up to me and said, hey, some of the shamanism work, that you can do. The people where we planted the potatoes, really need some help. And, what could you do? And so then they go into this whole story about, because I was seeing these ravens like fly up in the sky really high and then free fall, like spiral to the ground and all kinds of stuff. I couldn't figure out what the hell that they were not just communicating to me, but were communicating to all the people there for a while. Well, it turns out that the base of the story is that there was a man who lived on this property, and he got in a fight with his neighbors, and it ended up going to court. And then the neighbors ended up getting the man's property, and then they kicked, he was moved out, and then they moved right on in. And so the land there is saying that there has been a trespass and a spiritual violation. Now, the ravens, they deal with sacred law, and they come and they communicate when there's an imbalance, an injustice of law. When I first started learning a lot of this type of work, and I would go to climbing areas out in nowhere, hike in, and there'd be a lot of crows and ravens, I'd be like, no, not only am I not going to climb here today, but I am returning back to the car. You guys do whatever you want to do, but something is going to happen here. Something has happened here, and I'm not going to climb here because whatever it is, it's compounded. So when I see ravens doing things, I'm like super, super boom, I stop everything. I try to pay attention to what they're trying to tell me and about, basically the level of danger, that's involved. So anyway, so the farmer goes into this thing and tells me that, and I decided not to help that land because the people that wanted help were the people that caused the anger and the aggression, and the ravens were taking it out on them. Somehow they'd get in their cars and they'd like tear the upholstery apart. They'd pull wires out of the engines. The ravens were fully on like attacking everything that these people had. I mean, if that's not a sign that you need to return the land back to the original owner, that whatever you were involved in was wrong, because the dictators of the sacred law, crows and ravens, are saying so. And they're telling you that you need to get the fuck out of there because you have wronged this land and you wronged that man and his house. So, yeah, so it was like this really, horrible situation. So I decided that I wasn't going to go back. The ravens even dug up all the potatoes. They wanted to go back and transplant it. And I told the farmer, I said, I'm not going to be spiritually involved in whatever is going on there. And I'm going to keep a distance from that place. So these are the kind of things that can happen. They even hired a hunter to come out and shoot the ravens. So that's what the story that they were telling me was, that their family members, their brothers and sisters, were being shot out of the air, and then they were falling back down to ground, and then they'd get up. They're replaying the real violence against them, trying to make things right. It's really terrible. So these are the kind of things that can happen. I end up led in places that usually have some kind of really heavy activity. But the smallest things can cause huge change. I mean, people really need to think about everything that they do and making sure that they're taking personal responsibility for everything that they do, right? Because it all harms. I mean, do no harm is huge. I mean, you have to take everything into consideration. And it's tough. It's a tough job. Sometimes I get it wrong. And I have to go back and clean up my mess. So I wanted to tell you another a story. So sometimes it's good when you have to do a really heavy shift. You need several people to come and shift. And so the shifting happens within them, things that are held in them, and that how it relates to the outside world. And then a location where a lot of this kind of energy is held. So a ceremony that has a group, they come together to do work. For first, heal thyself, and during the process, you heal all my relations and my relationship to all my relations, right? And all my relationships, everything in this reality. My relationship to that tree, my friendship to that tree, and its friendship or choice if it wants to be a friend to me or not. My relationship to the dirt and the weeds and the air and the sky and the water. So I wanted to tell you kind of a really intense story. So sometimes I go out, I help people with their land, and then we make a decision about how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole dealing with the situation, or how deep it does go. Maybe they don't want to do it. And then I make a plan, and I go and I usually make some medicines, and then I give them the medicine and then teach them how to kind of do a little bit of ceremony to help the situation. So we do that first. And then if we need to go a little bit deeper, we can go a little bit deeper and do a little bit kind of a bigger ceremony where I participate more in it and make even more medicines and my relationship with the medicines and how we release. But if you do something like that, I'm going to take it, into the other state, across the world, wherever that meridian line goes and however many blocks are on it. I want that cleared. And sometimes it gets me into situations where I don't have enough people there to do their work. So I don't have, if you run an acupuncture needle through a huge area of the body, say you want to do the whole, liver. I mean, there's a lot of points across the whole body. So each person that comes to a ceremony is like an acupuncture point at that spot. The energies can be released, and then new energies are open, and then we're like an electrical current, or helping to stabilize an electrical current, kind of like EKG, you know, boom, to get that meridian light back on, or that energy in that meridian back on, that it goes to the next one, lights them up until that whole meridian or ley line on the earth is lit up. It's the same principles I use for the body and dogs and animals and earth. This whole earth acupuncture idea, because I believe that not only do all of our points deal with the points on the earth or ley lines or whatever else, acupuncture points. See, this is the problem with language. They change the language for everything so that you don't know what the hell's going on. Let's say, for example, you know, with acupuncture. So you have acupuncture for humans and animals, and meridians in the body. And then the earth has ley lines. And so they call things everything different, but it's all the same. And how your body and your ley lines are working or not working is why you're in the area that you're in, because the same thing is going on the earth. Those same meridians are working or not working. So you have to fix that. So the more people you have, the more intense the problem in the body or the land, or, you know. And some of these meridian lines, ley lines, they go out into the universe to different planets. So I have to be pretty apparent that I understand that what I'm messing with, right? And I'm trying to help, you know. I just don't go out there like haphazardly, like, oh yeah, I'm doing this new ceremony, I'm going to open a porthole. Great. So like I get to figure out where that's at and actually shut it. Kind of a thing. Like, you know, really ticks me off when people mess around with things that they don't have training. And there's a level where I know it goes past what I'm capable of doing, and I don't do it. So I have to know my limit. And I also in the past have called in help for things before. So I'm going to end kind of like, maybe end, who knows, I might not end. I'm sorry these are long, but there's a lot of details in them. I mean, and sometimes it's hard for me to get the information organized because, like I said, my subconscious mind doesn't want me directly communicating this out into the world or the public, because I've been trained not to, by everything, and to not be that way, to pretend like I'm not that way, that I'm, you know, I'm a real human. I'm not a real human. No, I'm just kidding. So one of my teachers, which, you know, sometimes when these medicine men, you know, he's a medicine man elder, and he's a Paiute, Marshall Jack. And, you know, he's traveled all over and done different kinds of ceremonies. I mean, he spent like a whole winter time down in South America and with the Aztecs, and, you know, did different kinds of ceremonies down there. Everybody has different kinds of ceremonies. And then he shared his ceremonies, and he has this water wheel ceremony that actually, you know, with some crystals and stuff like that, and a drawn diagram pattern, you create, you know, a like a vortex of energy that helps to keep that meridian open. And most of it is for water. It's all water. He calls them the water wheel ceremony. He was calling them something else for a while. Oh, he had a website called Keep the Waters Flowing. But I think he's like in Hawaii right now, and I think he's closed down his websites and his Facebook channel. He needs a break. He's tired, you know. he's been doing these for a while, and he said that a grandmother came out of Lake Tahoe and kind of told him like what she wanted. And he tried to fight her off and say, well, yeah, I'm a man and I don't know how to do any of this, like kind of women's work kind of a thing. And the grandmother said, no, I want you to do this new kind of a ceremony that's going to help, clear the water. It's going to change the vibration in the water to heighten it so it can release the bad things that have happened to it. Radiation stuff dumped into the water, chemtrails, in the water, chlorine, fluoride, how water's been treated, just, the whole 9 yards. And so to help elevate the vibration, on the planet. And this is the other thing about ascension. I've studied with people. I come from a family. And there is real work to do on this planet in order to get the planet at a vibrational rate to actually be awake and alive. Right now, the earth is not awake and it's not alive. I mean, there are points because some of us have been working these points. And there are still native people who are doing traditional ceremonies. But they're not enough. And we're working as hard as we can, and it's killing us. Well, not me. I've taken some time off, but, it's killed a lot of my, teachers. Because, every time one gets released, then another imprint atrocity is implied there. So anyway, I learned the water wheel ceremony from Marshall, and I said to him, hey, I think we should take this out to Pyramid Lake because there's a lot of really horrid energy out there. And really the water really needs some help. Because from Lake Tahoe in my area, the water goes all the way down to Pyramid Lake, and that's where it ends up. And, Pyramid Lake is kind of for shamanically, is a powerful place. It has like a huge pyramid, energy vortex, has a lot of really strange paranormal activity, multiple worlds kind of bumping into each other, a lot of really strange, activity. And just really needs help. It's a very, old power sacred place. And I recently read that it's connected to 2 other lakes in the world, like these power lake vortex things. So we're not going to ascend until we clean up our mess, is kind of the message I want to tell you. So anyway, Marshall says, well, why don't you go out and you put together a ceremony and you do Pyramid Lake? Because he was going somewhere. I don't know where he was going, Texas or maybe Hawaii or something to do some stuff. So I was like, all right. So I put it out, Facebook and everything else. Hi, I'm going to be doing a water wheel ceremony at Pyramid Lake. We'd really like people to participate. Blah, 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 blah. Well, nobody wanted to come. Nobody wanted to participate in it. So me and my student, I'm going to call him my student, friend, person, I asked him, because he's kind of really good with art, because you have to draw this star pattern on the ground, and then, there's all these other things that go along with it, and I'm a terrible artist. And so he was like, yeah, because we're working more together, and he was learning how to do different kinds of ceremonies and doing a lot of, native sweat lodge and things like that. And these were like ceremonies that I was going to too. I was doing some stuff at them, helping. So it was just easy for him to go with me, kind of a thing. And he was going through like a healing period. So anyway, so we end up going out there, and we end up 2 people doing the whole ceremony. And this is the ceremony that kind of made me realize like how how much negative energy. I'm a rooter. Where is the root? Let's get to the root of the problem. So that's, my intention. Like when I go out and I'm going to do anything, I'm like, let's get to the root. Even in ceremony. And sometimes I take off way too much, more than I can chew. In this case, I kind of did the same thing. It would have been better to keep putting the ceremony out until, and changing the dates on it until we had enough people that wanted to participate in their own healing, kind of a thing. Anyway, so we get to like the 4th round of the ceremony. We're activating the whole thing. And I started getting so nauseous and wobbly and vertigo that I just was like having a hard time even standing. And I just really, all I could think about at that point, it was still finishing. We're finishing, but all I could think about was getting in the car and getting home so I could lay down, and like that I was not okay, and I was really worried about driving. So we get the ceremony finished, and we pack up everything, and we leave. We end up getting really stuck, and these drunk fishermen on the beach, just kept watching us, and we just kept working out, trying to get out. I mean, we barely went off the road, and it was just kind of like a 2-hour, digging situation. And then finally, the drunk fishermen decided to come pull us out. So anyway, I get home, and I literally was in bed for like 3 days. I was sick, and I felt nauseous. I had like super vertigo. I was in really bad shape, and I kept having these really horrid dreams. I had these dreams where the people in the dreams were like, their heads were being bashed open like watermelons, like, taking a rock and busting up a watermelon, except for there's blood and debris and stuff just flying. And there were these people that didn't really fight at all. And then there was these other really aggressive, horrible people that were using sticks and their fists and rocks and murdering these people. It was like 3 days of horrible dreaming. I was like, oh my God. And so after 3 days, I finally like kind of recovered, and, just kind of pulled myself together, and then, kind of got over it. And then about 2 years later, I became friends with a half Washoe, half Paiute. I call him a young medicine man. He's like about my age, really cool. And I was staying at this area, and he was there too. So we worked on drumming and songs and prayer. That's all for like, I don't know, the 6 months I was there. My like focus was prayer. And, he really helped to bring me back to prayer in a really strong way, in a native way, and just really kind of helped me to get my prayers straightened out. Anyway, it was a chaotic period, but it was a super good period for me. Anyway, one day I was telling him about, having gone out and done the water wheel ceremony. It was just Ryan and me, and about what happened, and I got violently ill. And I suspected that there was so much negative energy there in the water, the whole lake, that, and because I wanted to go to the root, that to release it all in a big way. That's why I got really sick. I mean, it's happened before when I've gone out and done some work, and people always say, you're not protecting yourself. I fucking hate that spiritual elitism. I'm a conduit, so there is no self-protection. Protect myself from my personal responsibility and the personal responsibility of other humans that have damaged water. So I don't know, it's kind of asinine to me. There is no protection from being a conduit, and to release, really heavy energy. I mean, it's tough, it's hard, and it's hard to keep, a stiff upper lip when all you are engaged in, is sickness and death and demonic and murder. And, that's what a lot of my work, is like I constantly help people physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to release that stuff, to recover their health and their animals and other animals. And now I've taken it into the farming arena. And then, earth acupuncture work that I'm, been working on and building as a ceremony, to heal the ley lines in the world. Let's heal ourselves. Anyway. So anyway, what my friend told me was that, so I was telling about the water wheel ceremony, and then, these really horrible dreams that I had after. And he said, well, that happened out there. And I said, well, I wasn't aware that there was a Native American massacre, like out of Pyramid Lake. And he said, oh, yeah. So he went into town and found some information online and brought it back to me. And it was like the 1850s, the military had gone to Pyramid Lake. And it was their kind of details on the Native massacre out there. And that they said something like in the documents that the Native people were so easy to kill that they didn't even have to use their weapons. That they used their fists and stones. And that the Native people didn't even fight back. And so my friend Emmett told me, being Paiute Washoe, like desert native, you're starving all the time, and you're hunting and gathering all the time. I mean, a lot of the tribes, one of their main protein sources was bugs. And every once in a while, maybe they get a rabbit or something like that. But they were hungry, so they didn't have time to think about going to war with another tribe or fighting with other tribes that it had to be peaceful, right? Because their energy needed to be focused in on gathering food so that their tribe and their people always had enough food to eat, because it was in the desert. It was hard to get the food needed. So it was a lot of work. Let me tell you, if you've ever gone pine nut hunting, talk about a lot of work for very little. And traditionally, the natives still do that here. It's a big thing for them. So anyway, I read the thing in the paperwork and saw. So what I had seen was the root of the original sin, the original evil that had been committed to this land and this water, and that when I released it from the water, because blood is water. There's a lot of water in blood. And my native teachers also say that, water is crystal. It's a crystalline. It's a crystal. It has crystals in it. Blood is crystalline, and it has crystals in it. So, our bodies and our blood talk to the water. The water talks to us. So you have a massacre that happens there by the water. You don't think that the water knew it all and sensed it all, and from the people that they had a relationship with, that they felt those native people, that those native people and the water were one and the same, and the water took on what had happened to the native people. So, it's hard because I just really feel like, it's worth it. To help alleviate that suffering that's been But, you know, it's hard sometimes too, because you have to slow down a little bit and take care of your health. And sometimes there's like not a lot of people to talk to about this kind of work. And I'm a big do no harm person. And lately I just see a lot of things that I've been involved with that really have, you know, created harm, like sovereignty movement and sovereignty government and common law and all that other stuff. You know, the law precedes spirit. So I see it as doing harm. You know, it's creating a lot of confusion and another, you know, set a level of greed. I mean, sovereign people are just so, I mean, like their whole focus is on getting the money, you know, when our whole focus should be the ceremony, my heart, the heart of everything outside of me. And I'm not saying that money is not important or valuable, but, you know, if we work together, we could heal the planet in a way that it could recover and it could help us to fight back. But we have to give these beings, these things that we don't think are real or somehow humans are above, we just have to have a different thought about the beings on this planet and the power that they wield and they hold. And getting a respect and building relationships with them and listening and seeing and participating in a shamanic way, you know, original way. I'm the doctor, and I'm the doctor of the disease and the cause of illness and the illness. So that's my job. Native way, it's medicine. Everything is considered medicine. So every person has medicine and everything has medicine, and everything we do creates a dark medicine or a light medicine. And so we have to approach it that way with honor and reverence. And I mean, I understand that other people think, you know, maybe being a medical doctor or whatever else, or attorney is like, you know, the right path. But there are some of us that this is our path. And this world would not be even working right now. I mean, it's mildly working, but it'd be like much worse if it wasn't for my teachers and their predecessors and their ancestors and my ancestors that, thank God, some teachings did make it. And thank God some of us just still have enough DNA to understand it, that we can, you know, like run with it. And anyway, I think I'll end here. I don't want to get any complaints about my long videos. But anyway, thanks for listening. Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project YouTube channel. And walk sacredly, because you are the medicine and everything around you is the medicine. And we need to hear, and we need to see, and we need to hear and see here too, and how we can make a difference in the right way, doing no harm. Oh, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.